Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, brought to you by Huntworth. Huntworth gear for all types of weather, all types of terrain, all types of budgets. It's clothing that just works. Check them out at huntworthgear.com. So this week is podcast number 400. So I got John and Frank back. Kind of a recount of the total 400 episodes, kind of how we feel about that, kind of coming from where we started. And, you know, really none of this would be, you know, possible without the support of, you know, you guys listening and the relationships that we've built. And, you know, it's just so incredible, you know, to have done this for, you know, such a long time, and for it to be such a normal part of life now. Is just what happens every week, what goes on as far as interacting with people, trying to figure out guests and topics and all that stuff. So amazing to have done it for this long, continuing. And just want to say, you know, thank you for everybody over the years who supported us and continue to. Just amazing. So thank you guys so much. Fun episode. Towards the end, a great classic Uncle Frank stories. We did this one in the garage, throwback. So no video on this one, but just a great time kicking it old school and fun times. And over the weekend, I was able to get out, do some turkey hunting with my daughter. She was able to get her first turkey, and really, really cool experience, super fun, and have yet to get out for myself. Actually, I was going to get out and go sneak away tomorrow morning, but my daughter is now sick, so not going to be able to go tomorrow, but I'll get out this weekend, probably Friday, and then maybe Sunday before work. But yeah, just what a fun journey. And, you know, thank you for, you know, to all the guys that have supported us again, you know, Latitude Big Shot, Genesis 3D, Zinger, Kanadi, you know, all of those guys, Huntworth, of course. It's just been freaking amazing. So sit back, enjoy some classic Bowhunter Chronicles, episode 400. Stick around to the end. Uncle Frank at his finest. And as always, thanks for listening. All right. We're back. The Bowhunter Chronicles, John, Frank, and Adam, episode 400. Almost. I mean, we're not in John's garage because he doesn't own that garage anymore. But we're back in the garage, pole barn. 400 episodes. So, John, go take me back to around the time of episode. Well, how old were you? You had to be like younger than me right now.
Well, it was 8 years ago, so I was, 43?
Yeah, so younger than me now.
Yeah.
And you're, like, we were just, hanging out, working on bows until 3 a.m, talking about podcasts that we were listening to. I'm like, we can start a podcast. And
I remember saying, what do you think about starting a podcast? Sure, I don't like to talk much, but I like to work on bows. But
I'm like, I think we can do it. You're like, yeah, whatever.
yeah, well, you're still doing it. I'm not. Like, I think the last one I did was, it was before elk season, so.
Yeah. But what was your, like, I don't know, like what did you think the future was? Like,
back then? Like, honestly, I don't know. I think it was more like once we went to like ATA and all that, then I thought, this would be pretty cool. Like we could, start meeting more people and, getting out there. But, which you have done, you continue doing that. But, I mean, I had some fun doing it for a while.
And it's funny, like, like right now, because I don't listen to like a lot of hunting podcasts. I listen to some like on topics or like, things that like I'll hear like a clip or something and I'll be like, oh, I want to listen to that or I want to hear that. But I'm listening to like a lot of like the ones like with Andy Stump, and I think back to like that first ATA when we all like met him and Frank was talking to him, and he's like, it was just Frank left alone with him. It's like Frank and Andy Stump, and he's like,
well, I didn't have a freaking clue who the guy was.
You're like, so you
what
hunt?
He did.
You hunt very much? What did he say?
Well, he said, he said like, but two-legged ones or something. And I said, it didn't dawn on me at first. I thought, what the hell is he talking about?
Did you do a lot of hunting?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I did, but not the
four-legged
kind.
Yeah. I never got to drift,
And we hadn't done any episodes or anything like that. It was just, we were just starting. We started like right after that.
Yeah. After the first ATA.
Yeah. But I mean, did you think it was something that was like sustainable?
Not really. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm not much of a, like, you get in the right atmosphere and I'll talk your ear off. But I'm not the kind of person to be doing interviews like you. And, but when we started, there wasn't like hardly any hunting podcasts.
And they're definitely, like, I always just joke around. It's like when people ask me that, and like people would be like, oh, will you come on my podcast and talk? And they're like, when you started or whatever, I'm like, there was no podcast about people not killing shit.
Right.
Like, it was
the worst bow hunters.
Yeah. But it was only like, I feel like it was people who like either really wanted to be somebody like in the industry, or that was already in the industry, or it was something at least to us, like you and I, completely unrelatable.
Right. Yeah, like Wired to Hunt was around back then.
Working class bowhunter.
Working class, yeah.
But I saw them, and since meeting them and stuff, it's a little bit different. But even still, like, they have a much different idea of, like, I don't know, the deer that they're chasing.
It's a whole different.
And, that's not to say that there's anything like all those guys, blah, blah, blah. It's just for where we hunt, the guys that we hang around with.
There wasn't like an average guy podcast.
It didn't really like resonate. And, what's wild now, and like, you don't see it probably, but you're definitely smart enough to be able to, like, if you wanted to do a podcast now on like, the RC planes like your dad used to have or something like that, you could like literally do one from your phone. Like back when we started, it was like I had to do so much freaking research and hoops and stuff to figure out how to do this, like to get it out there. Like it was insane.
Well, yeah, now it's like everybody has a podcast. I swear, it's like
pretty much,
Yeah. And then for you, Frank, when I was like, hey, me and Johnny, I'm gonna start a podcast with Johnny. Like, what was your thoughts? Because I don't even think you knew what it was.
Didn't have a clue, man. There was no clue to that. I thought it was pretty cool though when we sat there. We used to just bullshit and stuff. You know what I mean? And that was basically what we did.
That and kill my wife's bushes. Pissing on the poor Rosa Sheridan.
Yeah, take care of that. But it was crazy back then. I think now I look at it and you come a long way, son. I'll tell you that.
It's it's a lot different, and that was the reason. Like, that was what's difficult is like, John obviously got like really busy building his house that was supposed to take like 6 weeks and it took 6 years or whatever.
It was only 2 years.
What's the average turnaround time on a house, John?
Well, when you're 50 years old.
And the price of lumber. I used to get 2x4s for 50 cents. And now.
It's one thing if you're subbing it out. If I was a sub, if I was just general contractor, but I did everything. So.
And his health was 70.
Yeah. If Uncle Frank's up there roofing with me at 70 years old, I'm like, how many other people are 70 years old up on the roof throwing shingles, sheeting?
But, so then, I felt bad because it was like taking your time, and then trying to get Frank. And then for a while, Frank stopped drinking, so it was hard to get him to tell any stories. Like all of a sudden he was bashful. He didn't want to talk anymore.
Well,
Statute of limitations is up, man.
Yeah, there's probably a few out there yet.
But, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like now it's just like, because, and I feel like even though you don't do the podcast or, you're not as involved, like still like, Frank for sure, like with the Patreon hunt and still even with John and Tack and seeing all the guys and even at the club, the amount of people that you see, through that stuff, just the community and like the people that you've met and been able to, and I think that's freaking, that's like the best part for me. Honestly, but I think it's freaking hilarious because I feel like you're so like guarded or like I don't want to talk to anybody, and like so because you're like I don't know about talking to anybody, and now people come up to you and they're like, hey John, you're John, right? Like, hey, I got a question.
Yeah, there was like in the early days I do remember there was people like, why are we talking to this clown? Like, I remember one of them was. Maybe I shouldn't say names, but it had to do with the Peep site.
Yeah.
And I don't even know, is that thing still around?
I don't think so. There's a lot of stuff that's like come and gone and like whatever, but at the time, and everything is like a gamble, right? Where it was really good to be like kind of first to talk to people who were like nobody knew about.
Right.
Because you think about how many people now that we know that like
actually made it.
Yeah, that their companies didn't exist when we met them.
Like tethered guys, like we met those guys and they were running around ATA with their stuff in a backpack. And then
and Latitude.
Like,
hey, come check out our prototypes,
Yeah, that's what I was getting to next. Like then all of a sudden Latitude's calling us like, hey, you guys want to stop over and just take a look at this and look where they're at now.
Yeah. And then you talk about things like, kind of like where you were going with that, I think is like guys who you're like, man, I don't think this is really, going to work out or, the product isn't really, but there's a guy out there kind of like that who's like really made it far in the industry because of his like knowledge and ability. And is working with a whole bunch of other companies and stuff like that. And he's actually come around to what you were trying to tell him on the podcast way back in the day.
When he first started.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you're going to shoot his veins this year, right?
Yep.
So, It's just been cool like that. And, to be able to have like, some input on stuff and have it like come to fruition, has been, cool. And it's not like, oh, look at us or anything like that. It's just, for guys just sitting in a garage, talking about something that we really enjoy. Frank, you used to work at the sport shop, right?
Yeah.
And I should have brought your dad's bow. That got some people when I posted that online, because like I said, I just wanted to make a video about it, because I put the Hank Williams song "Dinosaur" with it, But people really enjoyed the paint job. I think you could bring that back, John.
Oh yeah, I can't remember where I was at, but I was telling someone about it. And I'm like, dude, my dad would get Craig would give my dad all the old, like, bow hunting magazines. And he'd bring them home. And the way I would help is I would sit there with an X-Acto knife and cut out all those deer head silhouettes. Like
cut out the stencils for them?
Yeah. So that's how we got all the,
shit.
the deer heads. And then in the beginning, that's all there was, just the deer heads.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting some of them little tree bark. They were just like little plastic stencils. That was the tree bark. But yeah, and he'd use those deer heads until they got too thick with paint then he'd just toss them. And so that's.
Yeah, I had a couple. Well, as a matter of fact, my Mach Flight 4, that was like what he had there with the overdraw. That was I had that paint job on mine too.
Yeah, and there was another bow up in my mom's attic too that you've seen it, I think. Or like,
no, I didn't.
Someone said something about like, that D-loop on that bow.
Oh, I did. Remember you had it at your house?
Yeah.
Man, that thing's got a D-loop, man.
I'm like, I don't know who was messing with this thing.
Wow.
I think my dad still had they had one of the hard loops on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the old knock.
Yeah, because he shot the hot shot, didn't he?
Originally, yeah. But I think with that bow, he ended up having, because we had went to caliper releases. Wrist straps.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, Frank, is like at the store, and one of the things that I've kind of run into, and John, you can weigh in or whatever. Back in the day, did you run into guys who would come in and like be all geeked up, like buy all the stuff and never use it, and then just come in the next year and buy the same shit? Like,
it happened a lot, Well, there was guys that worked there at the shop, that were, every time a new gadget or something come out, they had to have it. Well, had the best equipment, they had, it was one guy in particular, I'm not going to mention any names for anything, but, he might get offended, but he had the greatest equipment in the world, and he never killed any deer, and one day he's just, he's all frustrated and he's talking to me about it, and he was one of the employees there, and he said, I just don't understand it. I got everything, I said, well, you got to get off the couch, I said, you can't kill him from there, dude, and that was the old adage, because he never hunted, We actually know some guys, today like that,
And that's what I was going to say is, going back to, just a couple of guys in the garage, but like for like the passion, Brad and I were talking about it the other day, and it was just talking about like people who are like, yeah, I'm going to get up and I'll meet you there. Like, don't go to that. I'm going to hunt that spot. So you go here and then I'll meet you. And then you call them and they didn't go, or, or whatever. And we're like, we're, getting out of work and trying to hunt that last hour and a half or whatever you can get, the amount of days that I spent, crawling around for turkeys in the hour and a half before I got to go to work, or, driving around just looking for turkeys, looking for deer, trying to figure out that stuff.
Well, watching bucks run across the field away from older guys,
Yeah. That's one thing that's, funny to me, like, and
it's
I guess
real funny.
But so over this time, like, John, what have you, like, because you're the know-it-all, right? You're the expert. But what have you, like, learned or, like, taken away from this whole experience?
I guess because I've barely hunted the last couple of years, but.
Well, but I just mean over this, so if this 8-year span didn't exist, like, let's say we never had that conversation and never did that.
One of the things that's what I was getting at. Like, I haven't hunted much lately, but one of the things that, like, out of all the people that we had talked to, we went and hung out with Dan Infall, we did all these interviews with all these, like, big buck killers. Like, those guys are fucking dedicated. I mean, they're doing that shit year round.
Yeah.
Like, they live it. They breathe it. Like, and those guys are taking, a lot of them, notes, like what they're seeing. They have like a log book. And I love to deer hunt, but I'm not a big buck killer like that because I got too many other irons in the fire. But that's what I learned looking at it, like, oh, I'm going to go kill a big buck. Well, you might get lucky and kill a big buck, once, maybe twice, or like every few years or something. But in order to be, like, consistent, like Litzinger, Boning Dad,
Andy May,
Jake Dan
Bush.
Infall, Jake Bush, like all those guys.
What? Okay, so let me throw a name at you, and you tell me what. Just because I think he falls into that category, but I don't think he's the note-taking type. Is Alex?
Alex Chop?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, Alex is a whole nother ball. Like, he's just wound for sound. Like, he's gonna get it done. Like,
just keep moving, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
And when you talk to John about that, I kind of think, everybody's lives are going kind of in different directions too. You got family, you got your daughter, and everything that she's involved in, which is a lot, and you're building a house, or you've got some other deals going on. It's the same way with everybody, but what happened to us is, like, we're not hunting together much anymore, and that's something that we were doing, at that time too. We spent more time together, if it was turkey or whatever, and I think you get away from that, and you lose a little bit of that, Of course, in my, some of my mishaps, and stuff, I have a little problem, getting around sometimes. But.
Yeah, I want that story told at the end of this, just because that nobody's heard that story yet. But yeah, and that's one thing that I've learned as well, John. But do you think it's, like, changed the way that you, like, hunt or, like, view the woods or anything?
Well, it's definitely helped me. I mean, it's definitely changed the way I look at the woods. Yes, like, all these. So my brother would be a good example, like, and maybe even like Renella's brother. Like, they're kind of, like, against this stuff, like, too much. They're keep the shit close. Like, don't let out your secrets. And I think that's one thing with the podcast. It's definitely made, like, it's shortened the learning curve for a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. The average guys, now they can listen to podcasts, and I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but it's definitely changed it.
Yeah, for me though, like, I think it's just kind of like made things. I think it's put everything into perspective. Because like what you're saying, those guys that are like doing all of that stuff, with taking notes and all that, and like eat, sleep, breathe. But a lot of them don't have they don't do anything else,
Right. That's why, like, no other hobbies.
Well,
like, that's it.
Let me ask you this now, Adam. When we went over to our property the other day, the lease there, and checked it out, you were saying, well, I looked at this on the map and, and this is the spot right here. See, before, you never talked like that. You know what I mean? But now you've got that knowledge. It's burned into your brain, and you can look at a piece of property or an area and say, I can throw 75, 80% of it out, and this is where I got to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, what I was going to say is, it puts all of that into perspective, right? So, like, there's all that other stuff going on. And so, like, if you want to be that top 1% or whatever, like, I just seen a post from Jake Bush, and he said, this year he's chasing his 5th public land Boone and Crockett, which is insane. But the amount of miles, the amount of things, the amount of drive that guy has, you can't discredit him. You can't discount any of that. I mean, it's amazing, but,
Right.
but I don't have that as a goal. And that's one of the things, like, with everything that's going on here in Michigan, like, talking to these guys who want to say, like, all this stuff is about trophy hunting and blah, blah, blah. It's like, for me, I still love hunting. I love being out there. Would I like to shoot a big buck? Yeah. But whatever gets me excited, I'm going to shoot it. Now, has that changed in this past time? Yes, but why that's changed is because I feel like my ability has changed. Like, before, I wasn't able to, like, get on deer, and then I wasn't able to get on bucks, and then I wasn't able to get on decent bucks, and it's just like moving up, like that progression that all these guys talk about. But I'm okay with, being around somewhere in that, mid-tier, like,
Right.
just above where I'm at right now. Of course, I want to progress, but, like, I don't think I'll ever get to a level where that's just going to be, I'm only shooting, these deer. But what I want to say is, now, like what you say about, like, being able to read the map, the amount of out-of-state trips that I've had in this, and I think elk hunting had a lot to do with it. Like, now when I go out of state for whitetail, I don't even care about it, like, what it looks like, scouting, anything like that ahead of time. I just look at the map, and I look at land, I look at access, I look at terrain, and I go there, and then you get there, and the sign's there, or it's not. The deer are there, or they're not, and then you just freaking move. Like, as long as you're not married to a spot. And that's why I think, like, I look at stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's no sense. But the whole lease thing, the private land thing, has just got me pulling my hair out, because, like, these deer don't do what they do on public land. These deer don't give two shits about a field edge. They don't give two shits about, like, cover. They don't give two shits about anything.
That's the same way we hunt in different states too,
Oh yeah, but
I mean, you take Ohio. Ohio's a whole different ball game, from what I was used to. I was used to the big woods and everything else, and acorns and everything, and here you got down there, you got no big woods, you got strips, coming through. You got crops, and things like that,
Yeah.
So,
Talking about out west, that kind of wrecked me for whitetail hunting. I mean, I've said that before, but, like, I ended up, of course, I spent 3 weeks out in Colorado last year, chasing elk, and got home, and I think I hunted maybe 4 days for whitetail. Of course, that was, I burned up a lot of time, a lot of fun tickets, but the elk hunting, I thought the whole western, even like antelope and all that,
oh, you still owe me an antelope trip.
yeah. Yeah, I know. My back was out that time, wasn't we were supposed to go. Well, aren't you going this year?
I don't know when you can put in. I was looking at it, but I don't think you can put in until June.
Yeah. So I was supposed to put in for Montana. Eddie ended up putting in for Montana this year. And so I ate a preference point. But just too much stuff going on.
Yeah, you definitely got a lot of stuff on the table.
But yeah, so what were you going to say, Frank, when I was talking about like the quality of deer, like, you know?
I mean, you shot some decent deer out of state, you know what I mean? And that's a feather in your cap, like I say, and that's just by looking at maps and stuff like that and then going there and saying, well, okay, it's no good. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to check this spot and that spot, But here in Michigan,
I suck ass.
No, I'm just saying it's the way things are right now, with their rules, regulations, or whatever, I mean, your chances of killing something really decent, I mean, you'll see one once in a while on a camera, or whatever, and Jake's kind of proven people wrong, I mean, by what he's done, but he has areas where, known, for good genetics and stuff, and he watches them and he hunts it, when it's supposed to be hunted. And I think for the most part, the deer here in Michigan, I mean, we just need to change, I mean, you go down and hunt Ohio, you hunt Missouri, you hunt Illinois, you hunt Indiana, Iowa, they're all $1 deals, and we just I think that's where we need to go, And I don't know about antler point restriction myself. I don't honestly can't tell you if it works, I guess they implement it all over, now, and they think it works, but how much do them guys hunt? You know what I mean?
So, I mean, is that still up in the air, or is it
next Wednesday?
Yeah,
they just threw a giant monkey wrench in it, frickin' Farm Bureau, and I'll try not to speak out of turn here, because a lot of the guys that I've deal with a lot are the guys that are basically talking to these commissioners every day, and so the $1 thing was pretty much agreed upon, and the muzzleloader thing was kind of agreed upon. The does by DMU were kind of agreed upon. It looked like those things kind of universally with the commissioners where they had enough votes. And then Farm Bureau kind of stepped in with some lobbying or whatever, and all of a sudden, and it wasn't by the DNR, so the DNR made their recommendations, and then, I was at the meeting, the DNR made their recommendations, then the NRC kind of took those recommendations and they kind of went a little harder with antler point restrictions and stuff like that, and then they're kind of like going back and forth, talking about walking that back a little bit. Then there was this big thing, looked like Farm Bureau, I think, got involved, and they were talking about an earn a second buck deal. And so then now it looks like that might be what they're looking at going into. And then they're also basically lobbying, and I think they may have enough votes, at least right now, so people can still call in, vote, send emails, all this stuff. But they're going to make no changes to the UP, so it's still going to be $2. And so, and I just read something, like somebody made a comment, but if, like, let's say that, and that would be for 2027, then it sounds like they wouldn't do anything this year, which is stupid. But, whatever. The NRC is just all of a sudden, again, forget what the DNR says. Forget what the biologists say. We'll just let these politicians do what they're going to do.
obvious?
But Anyway, like let's say that you have like a earn a buck thing, right? And you're worried about the deer numbers in the UP, and you're saying, oh well, nobody shoots $2 in the UP, anyways. But you don't want to earn a second buck. You just want to shoot $2. Just go to the UP, shoot $2 on a landscape that has a deer population that's struggling in and of itself.
Right.
You know, like it doesn't. It just doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense. So they're still working that out, and and this is like, the 23rd hour or whatever that they would call it. Like this just kind of like got kicked in like literally last week. So it's just absurd. But yeah, so that's all still kind of up in the air. But the actual vote by the NRC is next Wednesday.
What about baiting? Didn't they bring that back?
Baiting, I don't think has been anything done on it, but that's not done, I don't believe, by the NRC. I think that's in some House bill, blah, blah, blah. That's got to be voted on by the... So, that's not the NRC.
That shit might as well be legal anyway, because everybody, like every gas station,
that's the thing.
sells this shit on the corner. It's like, are you really picking that up to drive to the UP with it?
Yeah. So, that's wild. And again, just to go back to like this whole like people that you've met and like to go along with this, like to be able to like, like I say, like to get to know these people and to go to an NRC meeting and to know the people that are actually like really, really on this, kind of like the forefront of making this change, in seeing what's going on. And I wrote a letter to the NRC and basically said kind of the same stuff, but like, this is right now that, because they do this stuff in 3-year cycles. So every 3 years they get a voting cycle to kind of change the regulations. And it's like, if they don't do anything right now, or if they do something like completely out of left field, like is what's happening now, like it takes away like all of their credibility, and it just completely is like status quo. Like it's exactly what we expect out of them, just to do whatever they want. Go against the biologist, go with, big money, or be just freaking essentially popular vote. Like who cares about like the resource? Who cares about the deer herd? Who cares about, and that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't know. I can see how these people who are against $1, they say, they just keep saying like, oh, this is just trophy hunters. This is what you just want bigger bucks and blah, 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 blah. And to be honest, a lot of the people that are out there on social media and that are talking about it, it does kind of make it sound like that. The people that are actually the ones that are doing this are talking about healthier deer and taking more does off the landscape, a better buck to doe ratio. And by the way, a byproduct of that will be better age structure for bucks. But that can only be heard as better age structure for bucks with bigger bucks, and it's only people who want trophy class deer.
They can pick and choose. They can cherry pick out what they want.
Well, and John, you couldn't believe it. Like, I didn't realize how the freaking system worked. Like, I didn't know, like, during the public comment section, you could just get up and write your name. I thought you had to do it, like, before the public comment section. But there was 2 guys that went up there. One was just talking about his private land and how, it was public land was so bad and, all this stuff. And he felt sorry for anybody that had to hunt public land and all this stuff. But the next guy that went up there, he was talking for everybody that hunted public land, saying that there wasn't nobody could ever shoot an 8-point on public land. There was no deer on public land. It was just a barren wasteland. And I was like fuming. I was like, this guy, like, and this is like what's representing, this is what's being represented. This is what's being like going on record as it's just
the public opinion.
Yeah, it's just absurd.
Yeah. Well, maybe where was he hunting? Because there are some spots that are like that, but that's not every public land in Michigan.
No, there's places, I mean, all over the state.
But in these guys that they always fall back to, these guys just have their farms and their food plots, and they just want these it's my deer, and they just want this because they don't know how to hunt, so they just want everybody to pass deer so that they can shoot bigger deer. It's like, what an ignorant statement, but whatever. Like, I don't know.
So what are they? I mean, what are the biologists saying? What is the state of our deer herd? Is it good? Is it bad?
It's
average.
No, we have too many deer. We are not shooting enough does. So that's why they opened up the 10 doe tags. That's why they opened up any rifle during muzzleloader season. That's why.
And that's what the biologists are saying.
Yeah. And so they.
Well, okay. So are you seeing that where you hunt here? Because I'm not seeing, I don't see a ton of deer.
Well, so.
When I do hunt.
So that's the thing, is that they're in all these proponents of, or I guess all these opponents of one buck and all these people. The biggest problem with this overabundance of deer seems to be in zone 3, which is all the farmland, and it's all these farmers aren't killing, they're just killing. And this is, what it looks like. So the numbers look like they're killing more bucks than does. And so that's where the majority of your 2 bucks are coming from. And then they're not killing enough does, and they're complaining about, they need all these crop damage tags, but they're not filling them, and they're not allowing people on their land. So it's an access issue. So these people who are in these other zones are saying, well, you're punishing us. You can't let us shoot 2 bucks because these guys can't get their shit together and shoot more does.
That was like back in the 90s when Menominee County
had
the highest deer population per square mile in the state.
Right.
And so that's where, we did our annual hunting trip. We went up there, stayed right in Green Bay, and it was cedar swamps and dairy farms. And all the big bucks. We went and shined. We seen all kinds of big bucks, but they're all on the dairy farms. And they were getting the tags and stuff, but it was all the way back then. It was $50 a head minimum per night or per day to hunt. But you guys are pissed off because the deer are wrecking. So then you want to charge the guys to come in and kill the deer for you.
But then the UP is like a completely different scenario, because up there, there's a culture of not shooting any does because that's where the bucks come from, and they're not seeing enough bucks. So there are areas of the UP where there's too many does. The buck to doe ratio is really screwed up, and why that's a problem is so when they do have hard winters and they do have wolves, they have all of these extenuating circumstances, and they don't have a great nutrients, if it's not the cropland or whatever. So if you have too many does, these bucks are running, they're being able to breed the whole time. So they're not feeding, they're just running themselves ragged, and then they're dying.
Right.
Or they're being shot, So, and nobody's shooting the does, so all these does are getting bred. There's more does on the landscape, and then that's taking away the nutrients. That's taking more, away from the landscape.
So they need to break it down by unit, like it should be.
Well,
right?
but for the buck thing, they need to do it by unit, for the does as far as and that's what the plan is to do by, county or whatever, kind of like the way that it used to be, and then they're going from 10 doe tags to 5 doe tags is what is proposed. And then there's some areas that, just can't sustain it. So kind of like when we hunted Ohio, where you could kill 2 over here, 1 up there, 2 over there,
Right. Yeah, because, I remember, like, growing up hunting, and we'd put in for doe tags, and, like, Manistee, you never, like, it was unheard of.
Yeah.
We never got a doe tag up there. If you did, you're like, holy shit, I got a doe tag.
Well, and that's what I said. I said this on, like, a previous podcast, but, like, they've undervalued the does so much by giving you 1 million tags, by like whatever, and they're saying, oh, it's too much. I gotta spend $20 to shoot a doe, blah blah blah. And I guess there is some like credence to that, because not everybody processes their own deer, and it costs a lot to process deer. So like, oh okay, I get it. But just exactly what you're saying is like, if you could just go buy as many doe tags as you want to, doesn't matter. But back in the day, when you applied and you got one, you sure as shit were shooting a doe.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You were going to kill one, because that was like a golden ticket.
Yeah.
Right. But now, though, like, you could go up and, well, I'm only going to hunt, like, say, up by my property in Irons. Like, we didn't get doe tags there either. Go up and, with a rifle and shoot 4 or 5 does. Well, that's going to fuck up the population.
Yeah,
and that I haven't hunted up there in years, but that's the way it used to be. And not that long ago, when you could still get these, when you can just buy 10 tags over the counter and they're good for anywhere. It was like, holy shit. I bought, the last few years, like when that first came out, or I think there was like so many per day or something you could do. And I think I bought like 3 or 4. I never filled them. I was just like,
but that's one of the problems with the Earn-a-Buck too, is like because some of these guys are saying, hey, my unit can't sustain doe harvest. Like, we need to let the does be. Well, if you're in an Earn-a-Buck, earn your second buck tag, what are you gonna do?
how's the Earn-a-Buck work? Like shoot a doe?
Yeah.
Oh. Kind of like they do in the others, like.
But it would be earn your second buck. But then they don't know how they're, nothing's been said about enforcement. So how are you going to enforce that? Are there going to be a whole bunch of phantom deer that are killed? Or like in Kansas, like you have to take a picture of the deer as it lays on the app, so, that would be one way to do it. But they said like the cost would be absorbent and the amount of time it would take. In the political, and like for a government bureaucracy to make a new app, like.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's like a overnight deal.
No. And to them it'd be like, yeah, we're not.
Well, and Michigan is just going to, recording your deer now, as far as, mandatory check-in, so they didn't have a clue before, the stuff, some of the stuff they did, they were talking to the processors, and stuff like that, well, like you say, us 3 right here, we process our own deer,
Yeah, and
you're not taking it somewhere,
Yeah, I process all my own deer,
Yeah.
and then I've never been surveyed for a deer hunt. We talked about this, but now you got to report it, which that's what we were saying for years after we hunted Ohio. Like, why wouldn't they just implement that same system?
Really?
There's going to be guys that cheat the system and poach, do whatever, but the majority of people are going to, follow the rules.
But they're already doing it.
Right.
And that's the thing is like, no matter what, like all these guys that are like bitching about the changes are the same guys that are bitching about the system. So it's like, what do you
want?
Yeah. And the thing is like my dad, I told him last night at dinner, he was like, because they were talking about moving the season dates, but I think that's kind of like off the table right now. But they were talking about moving the season dates.
Gun season, from the 15th.
Yeah, they were talking about
Push it to the end or something?
Kind of. They were talking about the Saturday before
Thanksgiving
to the Sunday after Thanksgiving, just making it that 9-day stretch. But anyway, that would fuck up our deer camp.
Right.
You know, so my dad was like, you know, they shouldn't do that. They should leave it. And I said, here's the thing. I said, everybody who is against one of these changes or whatever, for the most part, you know, this is a super blanket statement, but the majority of people who are against one of these regulations or another is for selfish reasons. It's not for the betterment of the overall hunt, for the overall harvest, for the resource, for the deer herd, for Michigan as a whole. They're saying, well, it's because of me. And I said, when you remove yourself from it and say, hey, will it kill more deer? Will it, you know, do better to like balance the population? Will it kill more does? Will it, you know, balance out like the herd, you know, ratios? Like if you think about it from those standpoints, if you just go for like objectively instead of subjectively, and you look at it through that lens instead of like saying, how does it affect me personally? How are my feelings involved? Then it starts to change things, you know. And he was like, okay. And I said, you know, and what they're talking about is just going to a 3-day muzzleloader season instead of, and it'd be, I think, any weapon still. Yeah. But the reality of that is the same thing as the doe permit, right? If you have take the May turkey hunt, right? You got all of May to hunt. Well, I'll go next week. I'll go tomorrow. Maybe I'll go here. Well, I got this. I forgot. Blah, 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 blah. But if you only have 3 days,
Right.
you're going to go.
You're going to go.
You know, and so the most deer are killed November 15th, 16th, 17th, whatever. So if you can repeat that for the muzzleloader season, instead of spreading it out, you can get more guys in the woods on a certain day, you know. Yeah. But yeah, it's wild. So we'll see. I'm still up in the air on whether I'm going to go. Nate's going to go. Beckman's going. There's a few guys that, I mean, you know, a bunch of other guys from the like podcast network stuff are there going, but it's just, I don't know. Like the meeting when I was in Gulf Shores was like the meeting before the meeting. That was the one. 10 hours.
Holy shit.
Public's comment was like forever. Just insane. So I don't know. But switching gears a little bit, TAC is coming up on us pretty quickly. I went and shot my bow, and I don't know, John, you may be proud of me, you may not be. You may say, don't do it. But I went to the club. I was shooting with Nate the other day, and shooting my hinge, I was like all over the place. Like, I think it's because there's so much movement, because it's so like cold, I guess. Yeah. So I pulled out the thumb button, and I was shooting it with the pad of my hand, and my groups tightened up, like, and shooting it well. Like, took away like my, you know, I'm just doing the same processes with the hinge. I just have like a more consistent release. I had to adjust because I was shooting way right, so I had to bring it all the way back because of the way it's coming off the string, I think. But I had maybe like we'll say like a 10-inch group or so at 80.
Nice.
So, you know, it's not awesome, but those were the first shots that I've taken since league. So,
yeah, no. Where are you at with the tune on that bow? Like, have you done anything else with it? Was it long range, or where did? Who put your string on again? Was it
Grand Valley?
Grand Valley.
Grand Valley put the string on, and then
you had to get new limbs or something, didn't you?
Well, I did that all at the same time.
Okay.
And then it was flying like shit, but I shot the string in a little bit, and then remember at the club we got it back pretty good.
Right, and then that's where it's at now.
Yeah, but they're flying fairly straight. But I ordered a set of the Ching Chong arrows.
Did you?
Yeah. Yep.
No, those are a little bit bigger diameter, aren't they? They're more like the Carbon Express, like we used to shoot, or the 244s.
I don't know. And they have a weird spine. Like their spine chart is all over the place.
Really?
Because they have like 1 million spines instead of just like 300, 350, whatever. So I ordered, because the way that the 300 spine looked, I didn't know what my total arrow length was going to be. So I went down one spine, which is 290 for them. So we'll see.
Now, are you shooting them with the blazers that come on, or you stripped them off and put
I'm probably going to put zingers on them. But I wanted to see, I'm going to have to see like what the carbon to carbon is on my arrows and make sure that I got enough. Because what I want to do is I'll just cut them.
Cut them off.
Yeah, I'll just cut them off. I don't want to have to strip them. I mean, I will, but I just hate, it's just a pain. And I hate stripping carbon because you always get take that little bit of carbon off.
Yeah, that's why I've always just run wraps, but this next batch of arrows, I think I was going to order some of those or whatever, but I'm like, I think I'm just going to go get a new set of 5.0s, get some 3s.
Well, I got that set of Spartans still in the basement, but I'm like, I don't want to shoot those at TAC just because. Yeah, $200 set of arrows just.
I think last year, I lost a couple. Well, I broke a few. Those were the Canatis.
Those were the small ones? Thin ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, the K ones.
Yeah, because they were the original ones they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I cut them down, and then, because they were really long. And then changed. So I shot those.
The 3D course is up at the club. And
then they're putting the caribou up.
They're putting the caribou up. There's a 3D shoot for the Muskegon Bowmen at May 30th, and that's a 25 shot. So they got 20 because everything is 20 animals, except for the the Michigan Bowmen. They want 25. So he's putting 5 out on the target or on the field course. And, like, he's putting that elk out at 80, I think on that big, long downhill one. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the map is going to look like for that, but he's going to have, a few, 5 stretched out shots out there.
So they having a shoot?
There's a shoot for, the one that they always do for Michigan bow hunters.
Yeah.
Where they do the swap meet and everything. Yep. That's May 30th.
Okay.
And that's the one before Crystal. That's the weekend before Crystal. So that's kind of like a TAC tune-up.
Well, Crystal's
Boyne. Before Boyne.
I'll say Boyne's first because I got a little trouble for that. We've always gone like the first weekend in June. Yeah. So my wife was like, "Hey, I want to go to this Sunset Cruise thing. It's a fundraiser here." I'm like, sure. I'm like, well, wait, what's the date? Oh, it's like the 12th. Sure. Then I'm like, wait a minute. She bought the tickets. This was yesterday. We're going. I'm like, no, we're going to Crystal this year. That's the next weekend. Look at it. I'm like, so I think I'm going to have to drive home for Friday night. Drive home. It's a sunset cruise on the old Port City Princess, whatever they call it now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's Dave and Pat. It's the Waves of Hope fundraiser.
That's what I think Terry's going to.
Probably.
Yeah, about that time. Terry and Norman and them are going on that deal.
Why don't they just go with Ann?
Well, maybe it isn't the same date. I don't know. But it's right around there, I know.
I'll say Casey could go with.
Yeah.
Got an extra ticket.
Yeah. But no, so where were we going with that? Forgot. I got a complete tangent.
No, we're just talking about the getting ready for TAC.
Yeah. So they're going to have the club set up.
Yep.
Because last year I had it set up with the caribou.
Yeah.
And that's going to be in the same spot right
Yep.
there?
Yep.
Because that was nice.
Yep. And they'll have so on that, they're going to have a novelty shoot again. And then I've still got some prizes left over from the dinner. So I think they did it last year as like a 50-50. And then I've got some of those Yellowstone cameras left over. So we'll have one of those out there, and then probably some other stuff.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, I got it. I just built some strings for my bow. It's been, well, we were talking before we started recording. Eddie's got this old Blue Mountain that we don't even know what model it is. And he brought it down to me like a month ago. He's like, hey, can you, this thing needs some new strings. I'm like, all right, I don't have room, but bring it. So I started taking a look at it, and then a few weeks go by, and we're talking, and he's like, well, have you got a chance to look? I'm like, I'll go take it apart tonight. So I went out, broke it all down, took all the measurements, and then drew it all up, and then I'm like, sent it to Ed. And I'm like, well, the problem is, like, most of these companies weren't even around. Like, Winner's Choice was, but, like, Threads sure the hell wasn't. I'm like, they probably don't even know what a Blue Mountain bow is. So I'm like, but you can just send the specs. But him not being a string builder, like, he's not going to be able to, explain it how I could, like, okay, post to post, then from post to here, like, this is where the end serving starts, it ends, like, all that. And so I'm like, he was going to call Winner's Choice. Because then, after I got all done, I went back out and I looked, and there was actually a Winner's Choice sticker on the freaking limb. I'm like, so these are Winner's Choice strings from 20-some years ago.
You call them up and say, can I have your oldest employee?
Exactly.
Who's worked there the longest?
Right. And so finally, and then he called him, and this is all like through text messages over a few days, and he had called him and was on hold forever, and finally he's like, I had to get back to work, so he didn't. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with it. Forget it. I'm just going to build it. I'll clean out a section, get my stuff out. So got all my stuff out, got the jig set up, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to just build one, build his cold. So I was like, I'll just whip up one to fit the lift, and just to knock the dust off, So I quick whipped one up, and plus I didn't stretch it like I normally, before I'd stretch them for 24 hours, crank it up to like 600 pounds, get the full stretch, get all the twists out. So I think I stretched it for like 3-4 hours. And of course, it turned out pretty bad. Like, I put it on the bow and it was really short, and I used I found my old computer with all my old spreadsheets in it. I dug around, and it took me like an hour just to find a charger to get it to fire up. Finally got that fired up. And I remembered I had changed my stretch and twist rate as I, started tweaking my formula. And I'm like, but the original one was for like saying stretching only to 300 pounds and like for a short time. So I really should have went with that. But anyway, got all done. It wasn't great. So I'm like, well, I definitely can't rush it. So then Eddie's all laid up, stretched it, twisted it up, did everything, and that one turned out good, and then got his cables done. So I was like, well, I got to finish this. I do need a set of strings for the lift for tack. So I built the first one orange because I'm like, I have orange. I'll just no one really uses the orange. I'll just waste that. And then I started laying the cables up and stuff with my green, my go-to green. And I'm like, shit, I don't have enough to build a full set. So I got the cables all done and the 13-inch loops, and I'm like, well, I normally don't do it, but once it's served, you don't really want to stretch a string because it's not, you start getting some movement. It's like, screw it, it's either going in the garbage or not. So I took it off, threw it on the jig, and I stretched the thing up to 600 pounds overnight. And as I was stretching, you could see it, like the peep was twisting, come out, and took it off in the morning. And I cranked down the pressure, let it relax, then I set it back up to about 100 pounds and measure it, and it was like perfect. It was 65 3/4. Put it on the bow, and no twist or anything. Maybe just a little bit, but no more than I get that with the threads. But so then I got orange string and green cables.
You get to fletch up your arrows orange and green.
I was thinking about, I'm like, you know what? I'll get some orange and green instead of that's better than the green and white or green and yellow I went out west with.
Freaking
the aspens.
The green goblin.
So
have you been shooting at all?
No.
No.
I got it all built, and then I flung a couple arrows, but I do need to get it all fine tuned, and then I want to build a set of arrows. But it's getting down to crunch time.
I brought my bow with me today. I had it in the blind. I was like, if this, because it never happens the way that it happened today.
Right.
So I was like, I don't know if they're gonna hang up out there at 50 yards or whatever, and you've seen. So we went turkey hunting with my daughter, and this turkey got in the field 200 yards away, and she's like, "Can I shoot him?" I'm like, no, no, you may not.
Well, you could try, but you're not going to hit him.
But yeah, I brought the bow with me and had it and set up there. But,
yeah, I've been seeing the turkeys around the house this year, but I didn't,
Buddy down the road here this morning, I was talking to him, and they were gobbling all around his house.
When we left, there was a big longbeard running down the road.
He said they gobbled west, north, south, across the road to the east. Yeah.
So, Frank, you've had a pretty exciting hunt last season. We hadn't talked to you about it. You said you had a mishap. Last year you went out to Colorado with your recurve. You said, I'm just going to hunt with a recurve in Colorado, which is a bold move, Cotton.
Well, yeah, 2 years ago I killed that bull, with my compound, and I'm
still on cloud 9.
Yeah,
He's accomplished everything he ever wanted to do.
Yeah, everything I ever wanted to do. So I figured, hey man, I want to hunt with a recurve, and go back to the stick bow. So I've been shooting it, and I'm shooting it good, and I thought, well, I'll go out there, and hunt. Well, to make a long story short, it was probably one of the greatest hunts I ever had as far as seeing deer.
Well, we got time,
but it was unbelievable how I sat out there all day, waited for the wind to change and this and that, and it was pretty warm at that time. And I got out there I don't know, must have been 10:30 in the morning, And I was going to go down this one side of this property, and I started down there, and I jumped a buck, and I thought, I'm just going to screw this up if I keep on going. My wind's just going to go into that, oak brush, and screw it up. So I just backed out, went back around the other side, and I started sitting there where, the sun's out, and there isn't a lot of cover, Well, I found one of the little oak scrubs, and I just laid right down there. And I said, I'll wake up plenty of time, So I just took, I'd wake up, how you, if you're out there in the brush and looking around, and I'll go again, out of my pack, and finally it got to be 4:30 in the afternoon, and I said to myself, well, feeling a little different, sun's starting to get down over, here over by the mountain, and so I'm going to move up to this spot. So I get up there, and I picked me the spot and everything, and I got my bow hanging on an oak scrub right in front of me. And there's basically nothing in front of me other than sage and boulders and, that kind of stuff. Some oak scrub out there. And I was just standing there. I didn't have my seat with me or anything else, just standing in front of this brush. And I figured, anytime, 5 o'clock rolls around, nothing. 5:30 rolls around, nothing. It's getting like just a whisk of breeze coming from the north, which would be perfect for that spot. And, God, I'm going, what the hell's going on, I looked at my phone, 6 o'clock. Man, I ain't seen a deer, Put my phone back in my pocket, looked up. I had a doe standing like 10 feet from me. She's standing right there looking at me. And I'm going, holy shit. Michigan, the jig's up, So I just stood there, She kind of looked at me and then she walked right in front of me. I mean, 10, 15 feet. She walked right past me, and I watched her, and she walked right around to my right. And I thought she was going to, get right downwind of me there, breeze. And I thought, well, that's over with. I'll hear her, and she'll be gone. Well, nothing happened, and I'm thinking, where the hell's that deer at, Then I looked up in front of me, and here's 2 bucks together, probably 40 yards. Got their, head up in the oak scrubs. There's acorns in there, on them. And they're going to town, and I'm thinking, Jesus, I'm going to be screwed up now if they come. Where's she at? So I'm trying to look behind me, how you do the slow turn, like this. And all of a sudden, boom, right over my right shoulder, that deer ain't, 10 yards behind me. She's just standing there, feeding. And I'm going, holy shit, how come she didn't take off? So I look back, and I'm watching them bucks, and then all of a sudden a doe come from my right over here, and she's going towards that one, and I'm thinking, oh, hell, it's over, and nope, nothing happened, so I'm going, I don't believe this shit, so 2 bucks are out in front of me yet, and they're not really moving towards me, but they're just dicking around like, so I reach up real slow and take my bow off the peg I had it on there, on the tree, and figure, get ready. Then all of a sudden, right dead in front of me, there's this, he was an old buck. He was a 5x5, I think, but it wasn't real wide, He was tall. You could tell had a gray face, You could just tell he's probably about 100 years old, And I figured, hey, what the hell, And he was coming right at me, and I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is just get ready for him. I don't care what happens. When he comes around that sage and there's one thing of boulders like there, he comes around that, I'm going to frontal him, He'll probably be about 10 yards, I thought I'm going to shoot him right dead in the middle of the chest, So I got all ready for that, and it was like nothing was happening, These deer weren't running or they weren't, So he keeps getting closer. Christ, he's so slow. I can't believe it. You know what I mean? The tension's getting high, and he's coming to me, and he's just like taking his time, should I eat this or shouldn't I eat this, And finally he gets to the point where he starts coming around this stuff. And he looked at me and he's gone. I mean, absolutely gone. I thought, what the hell just happened? He's probably the oldest deer in the whole place, He's like, oh. He goes, that's a guy, boom, gone, like that. And I went, God damn it, here I am standing there, and finally I kind of let my bow down, and I'm thinking, geez, I just screwed that up, And the next thing well, there's another deer where he was coming through and another one behind him. These two 4x4s, little 4x4s, walked right up in front of me. And around what he did, and they're standing there, and there isn't nothing in the way, and they're looking right at me. Like, is that a guy or isn't that a guy? You know?
Why isn't he shooting us?
Yeah, and I'm going, you know, damn, you know, I don't want to shoot one of these right now, you know what I mean? It was just like, and then all of a sudden I look over to my right, and there are freaking mule deer coming out of the woodwork. It just looked like, you know, Harry and the Hendersons, you know, when they're all there at the end, you know. That's what it reminded me of, man. I mean, they're just, here they come, you know. And I'm going, holy shit. And this one, man, is a dandy, boy. I mean, a dandy. And I'm looking at him going, oh, my God, you know. Am I going to get a chance, you know? So I kind of had to move to my right a little bit, you know, turn, you know, and got turned and got everything ready. Everything is still looked over my shoulder. The deer's back there. You know, there's two of them behind me. And then this littler buck behind the big buck, he just kept ramming him in the ass. He'd ram him like, come on, you know, like this. And there was a doe ahead of the big one. And the big one had kind of just, you know, he kind of
the little buck seen Frank. He's like,
yeah,
keep going, keep
going.
him.
You know, so it's going to be probably a little over a 20-yard shot. And I'm thinking, all right, man, I got this. And all ready, you know, and everything. And when he gets behind this boulder, you know, and he was walking pretty steady. Then he comes to this opening. That's where I'm going to, you know, draw. I'm going to draw when he's behind that boulder, and I'm going to shoot. He gets behind the boulder, you know, and kind of hangs up a little bit, you know, and then all of a sudden he starts coming out. So I'm going to, you know, make my move, you know, and draw. And these deer behind me then took off, you know, and they all took off then, you know, and they ran out into this sage, you know, and he was standing out there and looking back, you know. He wasn't sure what it was, you know, what happened. The does, I don't even think, knew what happened. But anyways, they said, oh, the tree moved. Look, get out of here, you know. So they stood for the longest time out there, you know, and pretty soon the little buck starts ramming him in the ass again, you know, like give him a shot, you know. And he starts walking right back towards me. And I thought, oh, maybe I will get a shot, you know. He's coming. Probably got within 50, you know, and he's still going. All of a sudden, another 100 yards past these deer was an aspen grove over there. And there are freaking deer coming out of that. I mean, it looks like Magilla gorilla is chasing them. You know, they're running. I mean, they're just choo, you know, I don't know, 30 of them maybe come out of there, you know. Now, what the hell's going on? If all I could think of was a bear was after him or something, you know, or a lion, you know, a mountain lion or something. I just didn't know. And I'm watching these deer run, you know, and then all of a sudden these deer, you know, out in front of me, the buck's looking at them and everything, and all of a sudden, boom, they all take off. They all went to the same place, you know. They're all running, and I'm going, what the hell is going on, you know? Here come this son of a bitch running. This guy was probably about 6'9", man. And I mean, he was taking strides. He's got his bow in one hand, and I swear to God, it looked like fucking Bob Hayes coming out of there. He's, you know, and then he just stopped, you know, and he's looking all around, you know, like, where'd he go, you know? And I'm standing there, you know, and I'm going, what the fuck? And I just waved at him like, you know, he sees me, you know, and pretty soon he starts walking towards me, you know. And he gets over there, and I said to him, I goes, what the fuck are you doing, you know? You just spooked every deer in here, you know. I was going to get a shot at that 4x4. I was going to get a shot at I mean, you wouldn't get no shot at shit. They're running 100 miles an hour, and you're running behind them, you know. At that point, I mean, I was pissed, you know. I'd spent the whole day in there, napping, of course, but I spent it in there, you know. And then he comes to and he kept looking back over there, you know. They're not coming back, dude, you know. They're gone.
You spooked the fuck out of him.
Yeah, and I said to him very politely, I said, are you going to hunt in here tomorrow? And he goes, no, sir. And I goes, thank you very much. And he turned around and walked away, you know. But it was, like I say, it was probably one of the greatest hunts I'd had ever, you know. I mean, you've seen so many deer and how it laid out and everything. Well, then it started, you know, it was getting dark. So I walked back out, you know, and got on my my e-bike. And I had my pack on my back, and my bow was in my pack, you know, with everything. And it's a gravel road, probably, I don't know, half mile, I suppose, you know. You got to ride out to the blacktop, you know, where you take it to the right, and you're probably another half mile to the cabin. So, and it's downhill kind of coming out of there, you know, and I was going at a pretty good clip on that gravel, you know, and I thought, Frank, man, this you know, it's a bad deal. You better slow down before you get to that asphalt, you know what I mean? So, you know, take your time because you got a little bit of a right-hander, you know, there. It's a little incline like right there. I got out there, man, to the road, and I was doing about a half a mile an hour. Front tire went to the left, back to the right. I went over the high side. I'm laying in the middle of the road, and I landed right on my right kneecap on the asphalt, and the bar coming across for the battery on that Quiet Cat took my left knee out. And it looked like a fucking yard sale out there. I'm not shitting you. There was shit laying everywhere on the road. And I'm right in the middle of the lane, and I'm writhing in pain, you know. And all of a sudden I hear, whoa. There's a car coming, and there's a curve right there, you know. They would be coming around the curve, and I'm laying in the fucking road, you know, going to get run over. And so I'm scrambling, trying to pick up my bike, you know, and get, you know, get organized, you know, and I got partway up, and I hear, whoa. I thought, well, they're stopping to help. Whoa, they go around me, you know, and I thought, Jesus Christ, you know, they must have thought it was some homeless guy out there or some shit. I don't know. But anyway, that was a real bad deal right there, and that kind of made the rest of my elk hunting and mule deer hunting. It slowed me way down there, and then into whitetail too when I got home. So I'm recouping now, though. I'm getting pretty good. So.
And how old are you?
73.
Scratches his e-bike.
Yeah. Well, I got a new one though.
Without the crossbar?
Yeah. I got a girl style or whatever, you know, step through. Well, you know, it didn't make sense to me either, you know what I mean? If you got it, the Quiet Cat is kind of tall anyways, okay? But this one I got, it's the same size tires. It's got the 26-inch tires with the fat tires, you know. But it's a step through. Okay, it's got a rack on the back. But now I can load the rack up. I don't have to throw my leg over it. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't have done it in the first place. That's why I had the damn pack on my back, you know. John, you could, you know.
Step over it.
Yeah. But, I mean, it just didn't, you know, it doesn't make sense. It makes, the bike I got now, I'm really confident of it. I can handle it well, you know. So, it only goes about 90, so, you know.
And I find it so ironic that this guy right here sitting to my right is the got to get an arrow in him. I'm shooting whatever. He's got 2 4x4s in front of him at 10 yards, and he's like, nope. Only big bucks for me.
Well, it wasn't that. That was the first actual hunt, you know what I mean, for me in there, you know what I mean, and I seen what was in there. I knew what was in there.
Right. At that point, you knew.
Yeah. Well, we had a couple pictures from a few days before that, where some guys right there close to where I crashed, you know. There was 2 real nice ones. But that buck that I ended up seeing there, though, oh, God. I'd have shot the old one, too, you know. But not those, the 4x4s. Maybe later in the week, you know. But I guess
first day, last day.
I know.
I'm shooting.
Especially with a stick bow.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, God, he's freaking Fred Eichler all of a sudden.
Well, then me and Charlene go out to that spot, you know. We went all the way out there. It's probably I want to say it's 8-10 miles, from camp. Leave our guns back at camp, our pistols. I take them all the way back into this water hole, and set him on the water hole. And I said, I'll just be up there about 100 yards, up on there's a little meadow right up there. And then towards dark there, I heard John coming up through the dark timber there, and I see John standing there, and I'm looking down there, and I thought, well, I'll just give him the old, So I go like that. Well, John got down on all fours then and started coming kind of towards me, and holy shit. I said, that ain't John, that's a bear, And the sad part was she had 4 cubs with her. And I see him coming behind her, and I'm going, oh, shit, man, this is going to be a shit show. I knew it, I said, how many arrows can I shoot, because I got no gun, But what she did was she angled off, and she went to my right, and she went down into the drainage, and I thought, wow, man. So I'm, kind of looking around, getting my shit in order, and all of a sudden I heard something, and I looked up. Here's the biggest, blackest son of a bitch you ever seen. And I'm going, and she's got a cub with her. And I'm going, and she's closer. And I'm going, son of a bitch, there's another one, And by that time, man, when she passed me and went, kind of followed the other one, I collected all my shit. And I was going down towards John. John says, I didn't know if it was you, Frank. He said, so I was, I had my release on my string. You son of a bitch, He goes, you ain't going to believe it. I said, how close did they get to you? He said, do you know them 4? He said that she was talking to them all the way down. That's what I heard. I thought it was John, when he was coming up through there. The bear was coming up through there. And she was talking to them cubs the whole time. When she brought them down to the water, there's like a grass hill that goes down to this water hole. And then I had John on this side of it, and they all came right around damn near to him. And he said they were coming right up to me, Frank, and he said, and then they turned and says, thank God Frank must have the right scent, The bears are going to him, and I'm going, oh, shit. So we unassed that joint, man. But there was a lot of bears out there. I couldn't believe it. But leave your guns home, Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting stuff. So.
And it was a good hunt. Like I said, I was really, hobbled after that, deal. Because him and I had gone. I think we had gone in there. That was the day before I hunted the mule deer over there. Yeah.
And John ended up killing a bull.
Yep.
And then
Jay killed a cow.
Yep.
Yeah, John Charlin, not this John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And John Charlin is the one that I hunted with when you killed your bull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was in Colorado too, but not with Frank.
Right.
And you had like a kind of a shit show.
Yeah, it was just our unit was long and narrow. And not a whole lot of access points. So where we were at, everybody was at. And we seen elk and stuff, but they all ended up being pushed down on the private. Like that last night.
That's a place like we hunted there a couple of years ago.
The last night we hunted, we did call in. It was a little 4x4. Definitely a shooter. Got him into about less than 30, but he'd come off the public and was headed to the mountain, the private mountain, which, at that point we're just over a half mile away. And that last night, there was at least 20 elk on it and 4 big bulls that we could see.
What?
And they were bugling the whole time.
And at 30, what was the issue?
He was behind the oak scrub. He come up, so he came across, came down, and got out of sight, and then started coming up. Well, I didn't realize how steep it was right between him and I at that point, and then all of a sudden he shut up for a minute, and then all of a sudden he bugled right to my right. So like he had came down around and started coming up this it was like an old 2-track kind of coming up that plateau. And in the meet, like when we first set up, I'd put the pop-up decoy in the top of one of those oak scrubs. So it was like 6 foot up in the air. Because I'm like, I'm just going to do everything I can to try to draw him. And then it worked. But the wind was blowing straight out of the south from him to us. And like when I looked back, she was still up there and she's going like a kite, you know? And so I'm sure that's what spooked her, because all of a sudden he like just, I heard him. I couldn't see him. He was right like just over the crest, but in behind, like the way it would have worked out where he was coming up, it was going to be a 5 foot shot. Like it would have been,
Yeah.
Because
Well, kind of like the one in Idaho, like that first bull, then,
yeah,
where he come down and it'd have been just like he'd have popped out at the end of those.
yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was coming up, and then I heard him. He bugled, and then I could hear him coming up, and I'm like, oh, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Then all of a sudden he stopped, and then took up. But then he bugled again. Well, I was calling. Well, Ed was calling up above me, too. And so I started taking a few steps, trying to get up and over, because he kind of went down around the other edge of the other side. And he bugled one more time, and then by that point he was just heading off. So he didn't like what he was seeing at that point. But also my problem out there was all the other hunters. Like we had bear hunters literally come into our camp, like drove through our camp and parked just on the other side of it. And then because we had them on our camera walking through camp, and they're hunting the same spot we are. Like they're just, gun hunting. So they're walking around, and I'm like, yeah, we're screwed. Muzzleloader hunters, all the other, those guys came in, and I can't believe the shit that they bring their vehicles through. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I was like scared driving the quad in some of these spots, and they're going through there with freaking utility trailers and trucks. I'm like, what the hell? One looked like a Wesco. I don't know if you're from around here. It looked like a service truck, big dually truck, like ladder rack, all the stuff on it, pulling a trailer that had 2 4-seat side-by-sides, 2 Rangers, plus a job box in between the 2. That's how long that trailer was. And I heard it coming for like 15 minutes. I could hear this coming up the road. I'm like, what the hell is coming? And he went right on by, up past our camp, and just kept on. And that's all I could hear. I'm like, and that was the Friday, like before muzzleloader opened. And I mean, we were in camp that day. While we were in camp that day, we counted over a dozen trucks going in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where the hell are they going? And then we ran into one of the guys we were talking to. He had met some, was talking to one of the bear hunters, and the bear hunters are sitting there and they're cow calling. There's, they just walk around with the cow call. And they'd called in a 4x4, and they had a video of it, called it right up to like 8 yards, and then they just like waved at them, spooked it off. I'm like, it's probably the freaking, because it was right where they were at, like I know right where they were hunting, where that guy told me they were at, and where he ran into them, and that's right where that 4x4 bull came from. And I'm like, well, maybe that's one that's already been screwed with a little bit, but I mean, it was a good hunt. We had a good time. Beautiful country. We called one other bull in, quiet. He came in. That one probably ended up 40 yards from me, but at that point, like he came in below me. Oh, like closest to me where it was like in the open was 80 yards, but he was like facing me. So, and that was right at last light. Then we spooked one other nice bull, but everything was like most of the stuff on public, like where we were at, they weren't bugling. they wouldn't shut up on the fucking private mountain.
Yeah. Same way was when we were over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
that.
you know, the whole like Eddie picked that area because that's where he killed his big bull, but that was 15 years ago, and he hasn't been back since. And you know, obviously a lot of shit can change, and it did. Like he was actually pretty bummed. Like he's like, dude, this doesn't look anything like it did back then. Like there were so many trees down. The one spot where he's like, this was a walking trail. And then the other thing too is, so obviously Eddie's a farrier. He was out there that he worked in that area on a big ranch, and that's how he started scouting that area and like got to know it. 'Cause he would go up there and shoot horses, and then during elk season he'd end up hunting. And one of the big ranches, they would come up and maintain the trails because they would ride all the horses through there. Well, they'll pretty much, it's still there, but they basically don't do anything. They hardly ride the horses at all on the mountain. It's just, I don't know, novelty shit now. I don't know, but it was cool. We, the three of us hunted. I mean, no opportunities really to see some nice. We did see some nice mule deer, but we didn't have tags. Seen them. Eddie and I walked up on a family of moose. That was a little. It was a cow with a calf and then a big bull. And I didn't realize just how big them fuckers are. At that, I mean, it was probably 25 yards in front of us. Like all of a sudden, because the other thing too is the cattle, like the moo cattle, like the freaking beef cattle, are all over in that area. And I'm like, we're way the hell up on the mountain, like up near the top, and it had taken us hours to get up there, crawling through deadfalls, and I'm like, I look over and I'm like, man, it looks like a fucking cow. A moo cow. And I'm like, oh shit, no, that was it was the calf. And it was like standing up. And then right behind that was Mama. And I look back and Eddie's eyes are about, big as pop cans. And I'm like, Moose, he's looking like past me. And he's like, bull. And I'm like, then I see the bull. I'm like, holy shit. But I was so like fixated on the calf and the cow. But they, obviously we spooked them, but they didn't get crazy. They just got up and just walked off. So that was a pretty cool encounter. I've seen 2 bears, but nothing close. Nothing like you.
No. So it was the bear whisperer, man. I ain't kidding you.
But everybody we talked to out there, because that was the first year of the draw, and they're like, yeah, there was still like 600 leftover tags.
Yeah.
When, like, as we were going out, like they must have gave everybody a tag that applied, and more. Like I don't know how they got their quota, but it was kind of ridiculous. I won't go back to that area.
So you said you're sticking around this year? You're not hunting anywhere?
Yeah, we were supposed to. Eddie and I come to the, like, where do you want to hunt? I'm like, I want to go back to Montana. Thing with Montana is, there's a lot of hunters, maybe not as many elk, but you can go anywhere unless it's a draw unit. So like here or in Colorado, we were stuck to our unit, and there's one other unit but the other unit, the sister unit to ours, was like 90% private. And so we had talked to some local guys, and then, 2 of them were bird hunters. So they're going around all the time. He's like, yeah, there's a parking, you can park at this spot. He's like, but there's like 5 or 6 trucks there every day. So like, yeah, we're not going to be the 7th truck.
You know what we found and it kind of just holds true to here too. It's public land. If you have to look at the spots that are obscure, you know what I mean? They're like guys that are driving by it all the time. They're not hunting there. Just go in there and take a look, you know, because that's how Danny found them elk, you know, and it was, I mean, it's a couple 100 yards off the road is all, you know.
And that was kind of like where we called that other elk in. Like, everybody else was driving past us.
Yeah.
We were like one of the first camps. But it's also, then we also had Ed was up there, and he had a bull going. And he's like, I know it was an elk. He's like, I heard like this weird ass bugle he was calling. And then he's like, it was coming to him. He's like, I'm getting ready. He's like, it's going to come out of the oak scrub like 20 yards in front of me. And all of a sudden he hears this freaking panting behind him like this. He's like, freaks out, like turns around and looks, and here comes a dog running. And then right behind the dog, here comes this chick jogging down the trail. And he's like, and obviously he's like, whatever was coming is gone. And he's like, what the hell? And it's just some woman that was she just runs those old horse trails out there. I mean, he's like, how did you even find this? Oh, my friend told me about it. And this, no bullshit. Like 3 days later, he's going up in the northern section of our unit. Like him and Jeff take, and it's like, 20, 30 minute drive north. They get up to this other spot, which is, there's a campground and stuff. And then trails go off out into the, where he had hunted years ago. And so they walk out there, and no bullshit, all of a sudden, here comes a dog running. And it's the same chick.
No.
They ran into her again at another spot.
No way.
Like, what the hell? What are the odds? But
I'd have been done with it.
Yeah,
I'd
they
been
were.
like, lady, where are you going tomorrow? Because
Yeah.
Well, that's like when we were out there, when we hunted with Joe on the other side over there.
yeah,
How many camps were over there, Adam, on that?
there's a bunch of camps.
Of course, that was muzzleloader too, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But every place you could put a camp,
Oh,
they had a camp.
there was no room left for camp.
Yeah,
back
that was
behind us.
a lot of camps.
And another afternoon, we went back to camp, and all of a sudden we hear a dirt bike coming up. Goes away, goes through out back for a while. All of a sudden, an hour or two later, comes back, and we're actually sitting there, and one of the other guys, I think it was a Pennsylvania guy, he actually had stopped, and we were talking, and here comes a dirt biker back, and he pulls up to our group, and where we were like at the base of this, there was another little 2-track that kind of cut up and side-hilled above us, and then that was like there's like an old 2-track that, like a mine, because this is mining area, right? It was one of the old mining roads, but it just basically dead end back up in the mountain, and then the horse trails were up there also. And the kid's like, hey, do you mind if I ride through your camp? I mean, literally, like, through my tent, and Ed's trailer was right here, and there was like the path that we would take to go hunt was like right next to my tent. He's like, do you mind if I ride through? And everyone's like, yeah, we do. Like, you're going to spin rocks for one and probably throw them into my tent. It was that close. And so he's like, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, we'd prefer that you didn't ride up that way. We're hunting up there. Okay. So he goes down to the other part of the 2-track. I'll hear him go right out through where we're hunting. Like, and then another night, the cattle all came out of the back, and then the rustlers or whatever, or the wranglers came in. They came in, and then so there were literally 5 horses in our camp, trying to push the cattle back in because they got out. And they all had beepers. In the middle of the night, you'd hear this beep, 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 eerie as hell. Like, what the fuck is that? We talked to the wranglers, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's our locating system. That's weird. But, yeah, so we were supposed to go to Montana, but I got too much, everything with my shop and stuff getting pushed back with, I was supposed to get it built last fall. Got delivered in November, and it's still sitting on the ground, which is terrible because we got snow and it never stopped.
No.
And then we've got rain.
Now we got rain, and now my ground is so saturated I drill a hole and can't pour footings yet. So
then you were gonna forego Colorado this year. You were gonna do something else, and then you just couldn't do it.
No, we ended up applying again, so we'll know in another week or so.
same group.
A few less guys, you know.
Yeah.
There's going to be
Same spot.
yeah. We
Now you're back on public land, right?
yeah, we reserved those cabins, you know, again, and if we get tags, then
But 2 guys did kill.
yeah,
So 1 bull, 1 cow, right?
yep,
In the same spot.
Yep.
yeah.
There's you talk about that out there, and I told you this before, but you just said, just got to find a spot where people drive by. Like I told you where
Oh yeah,
you could access that.
yeah.
And just have somebody drop you off and run up in there. You kill. I don't know how, getting it out of there discreetly would be a bitch, but but there's a spot out there, John, that I'll show you on the map.
Yeah.
It's the spot. But yeah, I put in for Iowa. So Joe, he went out and filmed us in Kansas last year, and he's going to draw Iowa this year. So I said, I'll film you in Iowa. And then I looked, and I got enough points to draw Unit 7, I think. So I applied for 7. And if I get it, I get it. If not, but I'm like, I can just hunt 7 on the way back through. And he's like, well, I'll just apply 7 with you. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't, but
Right.
but we'll see. But the same thing, like I'm not going after a booner. And that's the thing, like if he does end up going to 7, like he and I are going to have a lot different expectations. But next year we're supposed to hunt Montana. I'm going to apply for Montana anyway.
Right, and that's the one with
Tom,
yeah. So that was the other thing. I'm like, well, I'll apply for that too, like, and Ed, because we can just go hang out. But Ed was putting in with the hopes of not drawing this year to save his preference point, because we both bought preference points for this year.
Yeah,
but you lose them.
What a weird system.
We still you keep your bonus points, for your draw units, but the preference points are for just getting your general tag.
But you have to keep applying.
You have to keep applying,
and it's
so it's $115 or whatever dollars.
But even if you draw, can you just defer it, or can you just say I don't want it?
I don't know, but you have to. Like, I wasn't going to put up it's all the money up front, so like
$1,200,
$1,012. No, because it was a big game combo.
Yeah.
So you're talking $1,250, whatever.
Yeah, that's what it was for Iowa, but not for $1,250. It was like $700, but because I was like, eee.
Yeah, and then you get like 80% back, whatever, if you don't draw. But then, yeah, I'm not sure how it works, because that one year I didn't get my elk, but I got my antelope, but I had to eat that.
Yeah,
So,
we need to figure out. We need to go back to Idaho, because I think now we could kill one in Idaho. Like,
yeah, but they changed their whole system too, right?
Yeah,
They went to a draw.
And it's a big long line. But it sounds like if you either have somebody in Idaho that has your information. They can buy your tag just over the counter, or you can just go to Idaho and buy it. I'm like, fuck. You just buy a ticket, in December, fly to Idaho, buy your tags, and fly back.
Right.
But I don't know.
Well, Colorado, obviously, I got a survey from them, so did Ed, and, pretty much told them where to shove it. And so, but the way it sounded like last year, that's why I told Ed, I'm like, well, if we don't put in for Montana, we can always, because he's got other units that he hunted, that he knows in Colorado, we can just go through and there might be leftover tags.
Well, yeah. And the units that they hunt is big. Like, they just hunt the one spot, but, like, there's other spots there. Yeah. Like where we hunted the first time.
Yeah, ours is big too, but like the whole, it's 12 miles across.
But there's a lot of, there's a ton of public.
Then the thing is, there's a ton of public in this unit, but the whole eastern side is the mountain range that you're not coming in from that side. So the whole western side is, most of it's bordered by private. So like where we hunted, we had to drive through, like the first mile or so, we're driving through private, and then you get out into the national forest, or whatever it is. So there's only so many access points. The ones south of us, those were like trailheads that, you could take in 25 freaking miles. Those were all loaded with horse trailers. And that's where we did see, I didn't see it. I was driving. Ed and Jeff and they're like, holy shit, you see the size of that bull in the back of the truck? And then we talked to the Pennsylvania guy, he had seen it and stopped. There were the Amish, there was a group of Amish guys that they horsebacked all the way back in there. And then the other thing too was Ed had called and talked to the biologist, and because there was a local guy that was there the whole time, staying in the tent. He was just living back there where we were at, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the winter kill. There's not nearly the amount of animals that were here, like this and that." So Ed called the biologist, talked to her. He said, "Yeah, there was a big kill a few years ago, but the numbers they're average. They're not down. The problem is." They had such a warm, hot summer, dry summer, that she's like, most of the herd's still up in the dry lake beds, or up high country. And they won't be coming down until they get, snowed out of there. And that's where most of the guys were going. Well, you're not hiking back in that far. You could, but not at my age. And I'm not packing out a elk 20 miles on my back, I'm not doing the hunting public bullshit. So
I'm not either.
Come on, Frank. You got that e-bike. You could do it. But
just letting you guys know that e-bikes can get you in trouble.
Wear a helmet.
I didn't hit my head.
Wear some knee pads.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Yeah, it's like you're lucky you didn't break your hip. At your age, you don't survive that.
Yeah, it'll be done then.
You don't survive that surgery.
No.
Well,
number 400 in the books.
Number 400 in the books.
Oh yeah.
So we'll have to do this again a little bit more frequently.
Yeah,
now that
sure.
You guys are, Frank's back on the sauce, and John.
I quit drinking now back in October.
But so tack, we're doing the Crystal Mountain tack. We're Saturday cookout, same thing. I think Frank's apparently getting pretty good at bear sloppy joes. So I think we'll do do up a batch of the Bear Sloppy Joes. Probably do some pork too, but
I do have some. I'm gonna smoke up some kingfish, king mackerel from Florida.
okay.
And make some like smoked fish dip, maybe.
Okay.
Just did a pork butt last night. You know, we had it today for Mother's Day. So.
Yeah. So, all right, fellas, here's to another 400.
All right,
All
dude.
right.
20 years in the books. All right. Later.